Hello, welcome to another episode of the series about Camille Flammarion and his work that has been published over 100 years ago. So today we have here with us in the studio our dear friend Faye Waddington.
Hello.
Hello, Faye.
Hello, Mane. Nice to see you and nice to be here.
Oh, thank you so
Thank you.
much. Yeah, it's a great pleasure to welcome you here. For those who don't know Faye, she's a spiritist worker. So she was born and raised in Brazil from a British family. And she met spiritism in Brazil. She always had this, is that right, Faye? You always had this tendency towards spirituality, and you started, in spiritism through the Spiritist Federation of the state of São Paulo in Brazil, yeah?
Yes, that's right. Yes, it's true. That was, as far as I can remember, from early age, there was always this connection and the need to seek anything that would help me develop and enhance and understand spirituality. Yes, and I
Wonderful.
was very
And
lucky.
later on, yeah, after work in Brazil, and then you met Johnny Duncan and Elsa Rossi, yeah,
Elsa Rossi, yes,
yeah.
and
So
then
both brought you to the Spiritist movement in the UK, yeah.
that's correct. Yes. Yeah. I was very
Okay,
grateful for everyone in Sao Paulo, in the groups in Sao Paulo, when I had the chance to work as a mediumistic painter to help form a home for children. And around here, meeting Elsa, there was a chance to help in the publishing of books, Spiritist books in the UK, and with a number of translations, and then meet my friends like yourself and a number of friends. So I could say I've been working with BUZZ, with the British Union of Spiritist Societies, with SSL, which is the Spiritist Society of London, and also the more specific mediumship meeting work for rescue, spiritual rescue work.
wonderful.
Mm.
Thank you so much, Faye. I won't delay any further your presentation. So today, Faye will be talking to us about the wonders of heaven, another piece of work by Camille Flammarion. So, Faye, the studio is all yours. I'll be here, you know, with you, but I'll
Thank
hand
you.
it over to you now.
Thank you. Well, how lucky was I to be invited to join this group again in this project in 2024, and specifically with this topic, with giving this book to study and talk about. Since I was I was the kind of child person that grew up looking at the skies, and then working in aviation and absolutely passionate about it. And so it connected really well. So I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity of being with you all once again, this time to offer a contribution and to talk about the brilliant mind who was and is the astronomer Camille Flammarion. Please excuse my French friends. Please excuse my pronunciation. Okay. I was both enthralled by this fascinating book and humbled before the magnitude of Flammarion's work. The energy and enthusiasm of this absolutely free-thinking young man who combined his scientific expertise with sensitivity and deep spirituality to produce the wonders of the heavens. In this book, Flammarion shares in balanced measures a vast amount of detailed information with total selflessness and generosity, to educate his readers. And this places his book among those which mark a time of significant transition for humanity, I think. As he establishes that science in that time has definitely evolved to become a means rather than an end. Next, please. The original title translated into English as The Wonders of the Heavens in some editions appeared as The Marvels of the Heavens. Flammarion started writing his book in 1865 to be a compilation of 5 smaller books presented as one, and which was first printed in France in 1870. But the book drew so much attention and interest that it had its first reprint, the second edition, also in France only a year later, in 1871. The aim of this book was to popularize astronomy even more through using an accessible language and interesting format, not only to update the readers, but also to invite his public to take a risk, going a step further and delve into more profound reflections about the possibility of man on planet Earth not being the only inhabitant of this and other universes. Next, please. Next, please. Thank you. In a time of groundbreaking discoveries, astronomy was attracting huge interest on the public in general. So much so that people of all walks of life felt inclined to become amateur astronomers and form their amateur astronomy societies, clubs, local groups. And this book was first published in English in 1874. So that's a picture of the first edition in English. Thanks to the collaboration offered by Lady Lockyer, or Mrs. Winfred Lockyer, who made the translation. She wrote the whole translation. Lady Lockyer, by the way, wife of Sir Norman Lockyer, was herself an enthusiast and amateur astronomer. She was proficient in several languages and had previously translated a number of scientific works written by fellow astronomers. And at the same time that she helped her husband, who was also a professional astronomer, to set up and run the hugely important and still active today Norman Lockyer Observatory, Technology Centre and Planetarium in Devon, England. Please note at the bottom that that was Victorian England. So this book was published by permission of Her Majesty the Queen Victoria. Next, please. The book itself was also a work of art, and not only for the quality of the language, both clearly technical and delicately poetic, but also for its visual appeal, as it was fully illustrated with no less than 48 copper plate prints, showing drawings made either by Flammarion himself or by his friends, artists, illustrators like Isal and Gebreton. So let's remember at this point that at that time, photography had only just been invented, and therefore it was not available at all as an art to illustrate books in the same manner as we routinely see them today. So they had to etch metal plates or stone plates or wooden plates to make the prints for books. And this is a result, mind you, of drawing on metal plates. I think is fabulous. Next one, please. In this image, you can see a middle-aged Flammarion next to famous footprints, which I'm sure you will recognize, left on the moon in 1969, when a giant leap to humankind was given by the Apollo astronauts, led by Commander Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins in their historic spaceflight to the moon. But then you may be thinking, what's the connection between these two images? Well, in my view, in my personal view, I see a total connection between the people and their moments in history, and therefore a link. I see a link between these two registers, which were made barely 100 years apart, as that particular space flight in 1969, in my view, came full circle with Flammarion's thoughts put in this particular book. Almost as a full turn in the time spiral, which in many ways irrevocably moved humankind forward. Next, please. As a prolific writer, Flammarion had over 50 printed titles under his belt, including popular science, several notable early science fiction novels, works on psychical research and related topics. And with this book in particular, he certainly influenced the arts, especially in the writing of contemporary science fiction books and, of course, the consequent production films. Next. From the very first science fiction story ever filmed, called A Trip to the Moon, which was a groundbreaking, it was the very beginning of the history of cinema. It was a science fiction film. The groundbreaking 12-minute film made by Georges Méliès in France in 1902. So very close to the publishing of this book. To every single science fiction film, and later on every TV series, science fiction TV series produced ever since. Going away beyond the mere entertainment value, Flammarion's body of work became a form of instigating curiosity, mainly around the ideas which he developed in Book 5, whose title is Plurality of Inhabited Worlds, which, by the way, earned him some strong reactions, as, for example, getting expelled from the Astronomy Society to which he had been affiliated for some time. Next, please. Now, nearly every time I look at the night sky or admire the awesome images from space provided by our different space agencies, I think of the men and women who have marked our history. And that is when the idea of constellations becomes a metaphor for the old maxim, to illustrate the old maxim, as above, so below. What I mean is that when looking at the night sky, I think of us down here on earth as the ones visited by true constellations of enlightened minds who were sent to teach us something, share their genius, and hopefully raise in us a gradual and stronger interest in our true nature as cosmic beings. The cosmic beings that we are, that's after all made up of the same stuff of the stars in physical composition as condensed photons and energy. As a generous and disinterested man who was not seeking notoriety at all, Flammarion connected with the greatest of his time and fully understood that it would be very difficult and probably unfair to try and appoint any astronomer as an absolute greatest, because the new astronomy in the 19th century had just realized that it should develop in close collaboration with other disciplines. Now, these people listed here were contemporaries who more or less directly influenced Flammarion with both scientific and spiritual food for thought and discussions. I'm pretty sure that some of these names will sound familiar to you. Next, please. The same was true for Allan Kardec, a scholar, a man of his time, and in tune with the pressing questions about ethics, morality, social development brought by the different scientists, philosophers, and spiritualists, including subjects like the plurality of inhabited worlds, which was fairly talked about at the time and deserved being visited and revisited, as it excited the public's curiosity and interest. Allan Kardec carried out his magnificent research with rigorous scientific methodology before publishing this book, The Book of Spirits, in 1857. His book had been organized as a series of 1,019 questions asked to various spirits and their responses, discussing a wide range of topics. And I've taken here one of them. The question is, are all our different corporeal existences lived on Earth? And the response, no, not at all, not all of them. They may be lived on other worlds as well. Those on this globe are neither the first nor the last, but they are of the most material and the farthest from perfection. Then, with each new corporeal existence, does a soul pass from one world to another, or does it live several lives? Does it live several lives on the same globe? It may live many lives on the same world if it has not evolved sufficiently to go to a more advanced one. So, we may reappear several times on the Earth, right? Of course. Can we come back to it after having lived on other worlds? Certainly. You may have already lived on other worlds besides Earth. Next, please. So here's the last question. Say, you may have already lived on other worlds beside Earth. Thank you. Next. As a young scientist, Camille Flammarion had met Allan Kardec, had become his friend, read his books, and like Kardec, he understood his time well enough to see the need to incorporate a wide range of information to his perspective and research methodology, as the astronomy in the 19th century was moving on beyond the job of cataloging the skies, to seek to understand the composition of the nature of the celestial bodies, and to predict what could not be seen. He thought that it was a time to keep an open mind and move from the dry routine of hopelessness to an exciting state of hopefulness and purpose. Next. As you see here, a list of branches of today's astronomy, only some of them. The scientific advances of the 19th century led to the establishment of all kinds of branches in astronomy seen today, based on math, physics, chemistry, or geology, even theology. Flammarion included the recent discoveries in his book by carefully choosing a straightforward yet friendly language in order to address topics such as proof that the Earth is round. It was a question then still. Thank you. Next, please. Flammarion presented technical drawings to prove that the Earth was round and revolves around its axis, as we know now. And this is his own illustration of colored stars that reflects a scientific finding of spectroscopy, which was developed in physics and chemistry, meaning it uses colors to indicate the stars' different sizes, distance, chemical composition, and geology. So Flammarion himself colored this plate. Next, please. Now, if we look at this, isn't that the sort of image sent by our space telescopes today? Next. And which are colorized and made available on our media today. So you see an image of Hubble, the same place seen by James Webb. Next. And to illustrate his explanations, Flammarion included drawings and etchings, those drawings made on metal plates and then printed, made on polished copper plates. And one of them is this extraordinary lunar landscape. I invite you to have a look at it. And you see the grain of the drawing, the grain of the plate, in what could be a photography of today. It could be a photograph, sorry. Next, please. Now, looking more closely to the structure of the wonders of the heavens, we can see books 1, 2, and 3 are about aspects of planet Earth in relation to the universe around her. the sidereal world and the solar system. Next. And the second page of contents lists book 4 about the terrestrial globe, the moon and eclipses. And book 5 is about the plurality of inhabited worlds, with his final and beautiful contemplation of the heavens, which is an exhortation to reflect on the possibility that humankind might not be alone in the universe. So he really wanted to talk about that. Next, please. As for style, Camille Flammarion uses scientific precision and a reflective lyricism in his approach to explain astronomy, turning it as interesting and magical as possible to the reader. He tries to capture their imagination at the same time that he prepares his audience to appreciate the freedom in his thought-provoking views about a more profound spirituality, one stemmed not from dogmatism, but rather from a more informed and rationally built-up faith, rationally supported faith. One that would seek a clearer consciousness and consider willingly the possibility of humans to regard themselves as inhabitants of a wider universe, which is quite possibly shared with other coexisting dwellers, sheltered in the many mansions of his Father's homes, which Jesus talked about. Next. Now, with this poem, The Night, originally written in French, Flammarion chose to open his book. That was his very first paragraph. So he opens the journey of reading his book and equally marks every new topic with a new yet short poem. So he not only resorted to literature that spoke to the heart, but also referred to sources of technical information which he thought would be interesting for the public to know where he got the information from, and which would corroborate and add credibility to his text. Next. Now, about the arrangement of the universe. This is a short extract of the book which I've chose that reveals his resourcefulness as a teacher as well, who cleverly uses the pupil's known experience as a stepping stone, as a starting point, as a relatable metaphor to introduce and explain something new, something unknown. Allow me to read it to you. In the bosom of infinite space, the unfathomable extent of which we have tried to comprehend, float rich clusters of stars, each separated by immense intervals. We shall soon show that All the stars are suns like ours, shining with their own light, and foci of as many systems of worlds as this. Now, the stars are not scattered in all parts at hazard. They are grouped as members of many families. A power as ancient as the existence of matter presided at the creation of these isles, each archipelago of which contains a great number. Not one amongst them has risen spontaneously in an isolated region. They are all collected in tribes, most of which count their members by millions. These rich groupings of stars have received the name of nebulae. So, Camille Flammarion has been described as an astronomer, mystic, and storyteller who was obsessed with life after death and on other worlds, and who many times seemed to see no distinction between the two. This belief in extraterrestrial life was combined with a religious conviction with emphasis on the transmigration of souls, as it is understood in Spiritism. He explained this evolutionary concept, describing man to be a citizen of the sky. Next. Man, a citizen of the sky, he wrote. Other worlds would be studios of human work, schools, where the expanding soul progressively learns and develops, assimilating gradually the knowledge to which its aspirations tend, approaching thus ever more the end of its destiny. Oh, how little is a man if he does not rise above human things. There are regions above, without limits, which our soul is admitted to possess, provided that it carries away with it the least possible that is material, and that, being purified from all stain and free from fetters, it is worthy of flying thither. Now, in contemplation of the heavens, to conclude his book, Flammarion wrote a reflective text from which I have taken a few samples, because I think it's better to show what he says than trying to interpret, that it's a masterpiece, I think. Anyways, it says, man does not live on bread alone. He requires thought. It's on rising to these noble contemplations that he becomes worthy of his rank. It is by occupying his mind with these beautiful and fertile subjects of study that his countenance will preserve the divine expression of his destiny, and will shine more and more. Let us not forget the teachings of the night, but return sometimes to meditate under its silent gloom. And about an imaginary space flight. He continues, if our sight was piercing enough to discover where we see only brilliant points in the black background of the sky, resplendent suns which evolve in the expanse and the inhabited worlds which follow them in their path. If it were given to us to embrace in a general run of our eyes over these myriads of fire-based systems, and if, advancing with the velocity of light, we could traverse from century to century this unlimited number of suns and spheres without ever meeting any limit to this prodigious immensity, looking behind, but no longer knowing in what part of the infinite to find this grain of dust called Earth, we should stop, fascinated and confounded by such a spectacle, and, uniting our voice to the concert of universal nature, we should say from the depth of our soul, Almighty God, how senseless we were to believe that there was nothing beyond the earth, and that our abode alone possessed the privilege of reflecting thy greatness and power. How beautiful and worthy of the human mind is this contemplation of the visible splendors of creation. How much superior are these studies to the common preoccupations which occupy our days and pass away our years. How they elevate the soul towards real greatness in the artificial world which we have formed to ourselves by our citizen habits. We have become so strange to nature that when we return to it, we appear to enter into a new world. And about the plurality of inhabited worlds, in close contact with the spiritualist and spiritist movements which really proliferated in Europe at the time, Camille Flammarion was himself a working medium who found much of his inspiration in Galilei, and he daringly asked in this book whether there would make any sense if creation populated tiny Earth with all its microcosmos and degrees of life, only to extinguish it at some point and have it return to the universe as gas or cosmic dust. He believed that God is life, and also believed in a larger cosmic project with ideas graciously brought to earth for the betterment of humankind, so that all species, terrestrial or otherwise, may thrive and coexist in bonds of trust and peaceful cooperation. He was a pacifist, and he believed our destiny would be the peaceful cooperation at any cost, in any realm, in any universe. So, With these final images that I have placed side by side, a crater on the moon named in honor of Camille Flammarion, so that's the Flammarion crater. And I'm pretty sure that he has christened another asteroid, another, I'm not sure about planet, but some other body or more. And so here's Flammarion crater and a recently released image that I think would please him so much. It's the view which summarizes the pursuit that is going on today in search of habitable planets, exoplanets, isn't it? So I thank you very much again for the opportunity of, and thank him for this opportunity. And with this, I'll close my presentation of Wonders of the Heart.
Thank you so much, Faye. Wonderful presentation with beautiful images, very, very nice images. And, we could, while I was watching your beautiful talk, your nice, very inspiring talk based on this wonderful piece of work by Flammarion, I was thinking that some minds living our daily lives, some of them, they crawl, some walk, some run, but some very few ones, but they are able to fly. And I think Camille Flammarion was one of those because he could see further beyond his time.
Yeah.
He could grasp from the little he could see in those days,
Yes.
things that perhaps with all the instruments that we have nowadays, we still, most of us can't see. We see a little bit more than people in general could see 100, 150 years ago. But
Yes.
these minds, they can see the beauty. And
it's amazing. Exactly, Mani. That's why the only image that I've had in years, to try to understand, and I think I used a similar image when I was talking about Leon Denis and Delanne, because they all, if you think of them, they were all born at about a similar time. So they were all contemporaries. How is it possible? You have all of these minds, and Tesla and Einstein and Faraday and all of them, to complement each other's line of thought and work and study and push mankind, humanity forward, isn't it? So that's why I call them constellations, because to me it's the image that I have.
Yeah, indeed. And it's amazing because looking at his work in astronomy, we then have an idea of his mind when he studied Spiritism. So we immediately see that he could understand things beyond the average person, because he was one of these brilliant minds. And even today, with the resources that we have today, he would do a wonderful work. Take us,
oh my goodness, yes. He would be up there, I'm sure. He would be up there. He would be a commander somewhere. And another thing, one point that I think, and I invite everyone to read this book, certainly, as all the others, but in this one in particular, it has so much, and I hope people don't feel too strange with all the images that I put together. But well, this has nothing to do. No, I think that it has everything to do, because everything, in a way or another, reflects the influence, the weight of his work, and the richness of his ideas. And in the book, I never felt any trace of pride, of talking down on anyone. On the contrary, there was a respect for people's beliefs, interests, and all. So he found a very incredibly elegant way of speaking freely, but without being confrontational, in the sense that he wasn't offending or diminishing anyone. There was absolute respect for. He used when he was talking about the reasons to think that this can't be the only place full of life. It can't, because it says, well, we think this is a big planet. You know, it takes a while to walk from A to B, to travel from here to there. And we find tiny ants, and we find elephants and zebras and giraffes. But then if you take a leaf or a blade of grass, put it under the microscope, and you will see a jungle there with ants, elephants, and giraffes in their realm, in their dimension. And then he says, well, are we truly giants, or are we part of a more gigantic system? Are we co-creators? Probably yes. He would say yes. And as well, if we have all these different kingdoms, animal, mineral, and here, why would they be elsewhere?
Yeah, and you see, I think, you know, I was trying to find a word to describe him, but I think honesty, you know, intellectual honesty is what characterizes Camille Flammarion to me. He had a brilliant mind. He could go light years with his mind, you know, like in the book Irania, you know, where he, you know, travels into space without leaving the Earth. But still, he was so careful to bring that to people, you know, to the common people, to the average people, making his findings, his discovery in astronomy as well as in spiritism, you know, very clearly bringing with, you know, such a degree of honesty to people. And that's what, you know, is his, you know, how would I say, what characterizes him to me, you know, his work and everything. So, and you brilliantly brought that to us. You made that very, very clear, you know, talking about this
and
book.
you've just used an expression that I felt that he was probably looking for. It probably wasn't in the language of the time, because it just said light years. And he was trying to imagine us going in the velocity of light. He didn't say light speed. He didn't say light years. But he had the feeling, he had the concept in himself. So the language wasn't even there.
Yeah. And that clearly shows to me that he was a spirit with a baggage, you know. That was tremendous, you know, tremendous. And probably from another planet, who knows?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Because isn't it for those questions in the Spirit's book, I think the next question, if I'm not mistaken, would be exactly that. Well, could someone who lived in another planet, could they come back to Earth? And the question, yes, if the mission was to teach.
Yeah.
If the mission was, if he chose a mission to teach and help the development here, yes, he could come back.
Yeah.
So
enlighten us.
I won't be surprised.
That is so nice, so wonderful.
Mm.
Faye, we have here with us our dear friend Solomon, our dear friend
So,
Elsa Rossi. Yes, so hello to them all. We have some
hello.
other people who are watching us, and those who will watch us in the future, because this will, stay
Yeah,
in, Buzz YouTube and Cardiac Radio as well. So, it's
and
very,
I'm being
very nice to have
excited.
you all here with us.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Faye, let me, I have some announcements to make. So,
Good.
next month, on the 4th of August, we will have with us here Humberto Schubert Coelho. He'll be talking about premonitory dreams and divination of the future. And another, piece of work by Camille Flammarion. So, you know, um, it's it's going to be nice again to get to know another piece of work by him. So I invite you all to be with us on the 4th of August, or if you cannot make it on the 4th of August, 7 p.m. British Summer Time, you can always watch it later. We also have studies. This is a study of the book Heaven and Hell and the Gospel According to Spiritism. It's organized by the Spiritist Center for Peace every Wednesday, 12 noon, London time. So you're all invited to join us. Here at the bottom, you have the code for Zoom and the password as well. We also have an online course on the Medium's book every Saturday, 10:30 a.m. It's open to whoever wants to join us. It's coordinated by Guilherme Dias, Charles Kempf, and myself. Also, the Spiritist Society of London holds on Tuesdays a study online, 7 p.m. London time. You can join through Zoom, and the meeting ID and passcode are here. So if you want to join, you are all welcome. And we also want to thank Kardec Radio for allowing us to use the studio and take this wonderful series of lectures to talks, I would say, to you all, and thanks to Kardec Radio and, the studio that they lend us. So we're very, very grateful to them. So, Faye, if you have some final words to say before we go, please do so. It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Well, I hope it has helped, has brought some more light on about this fantastic human being, this tremendous talent and thinker and scientist. I hope it helps to inspire someone to know more about him or pursue their own route, their own way in life with the freedom of thought, with the honesty of thought and purpose that he had.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I just want to add that, these are not a series of lectures, because in a lecture you come to teach something. We are not here to teach, but to
No,
present, to give our impressions about these pieces of work. We started with Leon Denis and then Gabriel Delan, and this year is the Camille Flammarion's year, where we have these monthly talks about these different books written by this wonderful scientist. So we just bring to you, we read, we prepare our impressions, and invite you all to read the books. This is the
yeah,
idea. It's not that now I know everything about this or that book, but now I'm really, really curious to read the book and know it in greater details. So thank you ever so much, Faye.
thank you, Munir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all for being here with us. Elsa, Solomon, and some other people. So I hope to see you all on the 4th of August. So
Yes.
bye-bye for now. See you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.